What would be worse than death? Losing everything through your own actions where you cannot stop the crumbling state of your own life. My name is Lucas Matthews, and I'm 35 years old, and I have lost everything I cared about. It all started when I was working 12 to 14-hour shifts at a dead-end job. The company I worked for were a toxic and vile corporation that would run their best workers into the ground and then discard them when they were burnt out and useless to their needs. After 2 years of working long hours and days, my life began to show cracks. One day after a long shift, I came home and found that my wife was gone. She was gone from the home that we built together and left me and took my only child, whom I cared for dearly. This completely broke me. I was trying my best to give them the life that she wished for, but because I was always tired and the economy wouldn't allow me to find a new job, she saw it fit for her and my child to leave me. After a few months of constantly working myself into the ground and my booze-filled nights to help me sleep, I decided to look for a place outside of town to recover from the worst thing a human can suffer from: a broken heart. After a while of searching on my own, I found a cheap but very rough-looking house. After a few more hours of searching, I kept going back to the same house as I felt something pulling me towards the advert. A few more months passed by and I was viewing the house that I felt the strange pull on, and the man was it run down. It was bleak, it was rotting, it needed new everything. However, when I closed my eyes, rather than seeing the ugly, run-down state it was in, I saw a beautiful thing I could work on during my free time to keep my mind occupied. I even saw a beautiful home that I could live in and recover and even get on with my life. Within weeks, I had the keys in my hand, and I was the proud owner of the old 2-story family house. After speaking to my bosses, they reluctantly gave me time off so I could fix up the new place, as I have accrued a lot of vacation time due to losing my family and not wanting to be at home. My first night in my new home went as fine as it could have gone, to be honest, though I didn't even have a mattress to my name, as my wife crippled me in the doors as I was painted as a bad parent, using old stories of me drinking too much and ignoring her needs due to fatigue from working too much. However, during the first night, I could hear slight noises that I would put to the house settling. As the house was quite old, the house would creak multiple times that night, and these sounds resembled to what in my mind was footsteps moving throughout the house, starting at the north side, heading to the south, moving towards the stairs. I dismissed the noises as wood expanding and drifted off to sleep in my cheap but thin sleeping bag. And the dream I would have would stay with me for the rest of my life, as it was a blinding light slowly moving towards myself as I was fixed to the spot, unable to move. The feeling that burned through my body was that of distress and anxiety. Within moments of the feeling racing through my system, I woke up in a hot sweat, even though the room was ice cold. Within moments of myself waking up, I felt the feeling of being watched. However, I put it down to being in a new place, surrounded by a new environment. It took a few months, but the house was finally livable. Yes, livable condition would put it down to. However, since I moved in, each night the sound got more erratic. The first week in, the sounds were minimal. Some creaking here, some scratching there. It was almost ignorable. Until a few weeks later, when I was lying in bed, just about to drift off to sleep, I started to hear a loud scratching noise on wood. And the only exposed wood in my home was the banister of the stairs at the end of the hallway. So, as the scratching continued, I slowly crawled out of bed, slowly opened my door to the awaiting darkness. But while peeking down the hallway for anything out of the ordinary, I started to think to myself how silly I was being, and opened the door fully and began the short walk to the top of the staircase. I listened for the scratching sound, hoping to hear and find nothing, or at least maybe a mouse who had taken up residence in my home when I started renovating the house and took the windows out. Standing at the top of my stairs, I looked down and sighed, as in the darkness I couldn't see a thing. So I decided to reach up for the light switch, only to find that I forgot to wire up the light switch, as I still hadn't finished painting the walls of the staircase yet. Growling to myself, I slowly started to head down the stairs and begin to hear the sound more clearly. I reached the wired light switch and flicked it on. The light ripped into the area and chased away the darkness. Squinting in the blinding light, I looked around and noticed nothing. Absolutely nothing amiss. I grumbled to myself about this old house making strange noises in the night. Taking a step forward, a dark mass rushes between my legs, causing me to jump out and scream in shock. Looking around frantically, I noticed a small black mouse staring at me from the corner of the room. To be honest, I just chuckled and shaked my head in disbelief as I stand back up and turn around to head back up to my bed. Turning around slowly though, I lift my eyes to begin my ascent back up to my slumber, and I freeze instantly, as when I look at the top of the stairs, all I can see is a complete black mass covering the top of the staircase. My body becomes extremely cold and I begin to hyperventilate. Within seconds of my eyes meeting the mass, the world goes black and I fall into a dreamlike state. Within that state, I have the same dream as before, but slightly different, as when I look around, I'm a lonely road surrounded by mist, as the blinding light appears and begins to move quickly this time with the roar of an earthquake. The sound begins to cause pain in my ears, and within seconds of the pain happening, I wake up screaming and find myself covered in sweats and laying in my own bed even. The noises become more and more frequent, as the sleepless nights are beginning to take a toll, as each time I sleep, I have the same dream. However, each week it becomes more clearer, as I now know what the dream is about. Facing my past is something I have never been good at. However, this dream is making my life a living hell. The mask keeps showing itself, sometimes discreetly in the corner of my eye, and sometimes it stands in reflective surfaces. I cannot seem to escape it. As when I think I'm alone, I can hear it breathing down the back of my neck, only inches away from me, stalking my every move. Working is becoming hard. Each time I work, it seems like the mask even follows me there. It won't stop. When I think I'm alone, I can hear it breathing just behind me. The worst thing, I must admit, is the fatigue. I feel as each time I sleep, I have the terrible dream, My bosses are starting to take notice and are beginning to think I am burnt out. At home, the noises are rampant as each time I lay down to catch a few hours of rest, the banging starts up. It started off as scratching and knocking, and now has progressed to full-on banging on the walls and the doors, each time getting closer until I open my eyes and look around. Trying to ignore the mask just seems to make it more frantic and aggressive. At work, if I ignore the breathing and the appearances, the mask begins to do smaller things like tugging on my clothes, and even if I ignore that, it starts to throw equipment and clothing around, just causing me more bother with the bosses, making them think I'm incompetent. However, at home, ignoring it becomes extremely hard, as there is no escape, no distraction, and the home is not mine. The home is its domain. It feels like the house I'm living in is not my own no more. My house is starting to become unbearable. My life is starting to become unbearable. I tried to sleep at a friend's house for a few nights. However, each time I closed my eyes, I could hear the house calling to me. Each night I stayed over at their home, the dreams become more and more violent. It started off small, like images of the house with the mat in the window, and then it got worse by the images becoming more decayed and the mask giving off a feeling of anger and frustration. Unfortunately, I couldn't live with my friends and his family, as they were becoming distressed at my appearance, as I cannot sleep or rest. Each time I try, the images make their unwanted appearance in my mind, and the anxiety strikes me like a hammer to the heart. Before I go back to the house, I decided to pay a visit to the doctor, and they gave me some pills to sleep. Being alone in that house, I just seemed to stare into the newly acquired pill bottle, with just my mind racing, deciding either if I should take them and rest, or just continue the way I am. It's been a year since I moved into this hellhole of a house. I just can't do it anymore. I cannot rest, and I can't seem to do anything of value that has any meaning anymore in my life. My job is beginning to push me more and more, trying to get more out of me when I have nothing left to give. Walking into that house after a long day is starting to make me feel sick to my core. I think the mask is enjoying my suffering. As I lay there on my bed, I shiver as I begin to hear the scratching coming towards my room. Slowly and methodically moving towards my bedroom door. My heart is going to burst, and I feel like I'm going to have a heart attack. The sound is so clear, I can even trace it along the walls of my room. Where it is, as it gets closer to the door, the fear and the dread begin to build in my core, making my whole body shake in terror. My eyes widen as I notice the door handle beginning to rock back and forth repeatedly until the noticeable click of the latch as the door slowly opens. My eyes start to become heavy and I pass out, only to find myself on the crossroads once more, with the light moving quickly towards me. As the light passes me, the scene seems to slow down, as I look at the light and notice that the light is in fact a car, and in the driving seat was me. Memories begin to rip into my mind. The memories were of me driving down the road from the local bar after a few stiff drinks after work. However, as the scene sped back up, I was watching the car drive down the road and pass a stop sign without even slowing down. And within a moment, it crashes into another car. After hitting the car, it begins to swerve across the road and crash through a barrier and sink down a banking, causing the car to roll multiple times. Walking over to the banking, I look down and just see steam bellowing from the wrecked car. Once stood on the side of the banking, a single tear dropped from my eye, and I woke up in my bed, sweating once more and hyperventilating, holding my chest. Getting up slowly, I walked to my door, and to my complete shock, I looked down my hallway to find marks running towards my room, along the wall, starting at my stairs. The marks start off light and hardly noticeable. However, as they continue down the hallway, they begin to dig in more and tear more plaster and wallpaper from the wall as it gets closer to my door. Quickly, walking down the hallway, I head downstairs and go outside and sit in my car, just to try and get a moment's peace. But within seconds of my car door shutting, the radio explodes into life.
Today we are appealing for information for a fatal car accident that happened a year and a half ago today. We are still looking for the other driver who may have clashed with this car, killing a family of 4. So if you have any information, please contact your local police department.
Sitting in my car as my heart sinks to the bottom of my chest as the images of the day replay in my mind, as the haziness in my mind blocked a lot of the memories. Sitting there for what seemed like an age, I get out of my car and slam the door, only to drop to my knees, shaking in absolute fear. As I look up to my bedroom, I feel eyes staring at me. As my eyes hit the glass pane, there it is, once again in my bedroom, standing against my window. Slowly, I get up and reach my door, and once more I climb my stairs and stop at my bedroom door, as the fear that fills my core wants me to run out the house and not return. Knowing there is no escaping this thing, I open my door to the room I find completely empty, and as I turn to my mirror, I see scratched into its surface the word murderer. Seeing that, I drop to my knees and begin to weep uncontrollably as I hear a whisper slowly with a hate-filled tone behind me. Murderer. I could feel each letter roll off its hateful tongue, the breath on the back of her neck as my head just hung low. As I looked up, I noticed that the hatch of my attic slowly began to open with a long and audible creak. Slowly getting to my feet, I moved over to the hatch and looked up into the gloom, and slowly began my ascent to the dark, gloomy room that was only illuminated by a single bulb. Moving to the center of the attic, the hatch slammed shut and caused me to scream out in fear, and began to look around agitatedly as my eyes lock with something in the back of the attic room. I notice the mash just standing there, as it slowly forms an arm and then a hand and points to a noose that is hanging from the support beam with a small stool below it. Slowly moving towards it as if I was being drawn to it by its will, while remembering that my family slowly decaying due to my own actions, as the lies and the deceit as I told her about the accident and the loans to cover the damages of the car, as I couldn't go through the finance, or the insurance, as they would be able to connect me to the bar and then to the accident, and I would have lost everything anyway due to me getting a drinking and driving charge. They would have just pinned it all on me. It was all my fault. I have so many regrets, as when I think about my actions, I feel that the family whom had died didn't deserve the fate that I dealt them that day. They lost a lot more than I have, and it was down to my own selfish actions and my own cowardice that it happened. I just want to end it. Yes, I just want to end it all. I just want it all to stop. Yes, I understand now. All it would take is a single drop and a kick of the stool. Hey guys, this is Kindarous. Thank you so much for listening. This one is the longest I've done. I have had so much fun writing this about the mental torture and trying to keep it as open to you guys as I can. But yeah, I also want to do a big shout out to my fiance, who has helped me with pronunciation, grammar, etc. It's just how it is. But anyway, thanks guys. Please subscribe to me, drop a like, and also in the comment section below, give me some feedback. It really does help me grow. So yeah, comment, subscribe, like, and hit that notification bell for new videos every week. So, this is Kindarous, signing off. See you later, guys.